Purdue takes on Tennessee in the Elite Eight with a Final Four trip up for grabs. I'm going to go through some of the film on some of the key things that I think will appear throughout this game. Let's get into it. So, Purdue and Tennessee already played once this year in the Maui Invitational. Purdue was able to get the win, but it was a pretty ugly game. I'm going to use a few of the plays though, and starting with how Tennessee defended Zach Edey, as obviously that is one of the most important things in any game involving Purdue. Now, Tennessee, they're going to be a very physical team. And so you're going to see already the Bigs just going to try to not give up as much ground as possible. Most teams try, very few succeed. Tennessee is one of the teams that was able to succeed some, but what they did pretty consistently is they never full doubled, like where it's like a full-on trap, but they would often have one of the guards on the perimeter really dig down. And so they're just really trying to get into Edey. I mean, you can see two guys right here digging down into Edey and just trying to swipe at the ball. Connect here is able to get a hand on it right in this little spot, and that's going to throw Edey off and make him have to work. And that's what Tennessee's just going to do in this game. Now, it isn't just against Purdue that Tennessee decides to kind of dig down and help in the post. They do it a lot. That's kind of their base coverage against the post. And so, again, you're going to see here, so post entry pass, and the ball goes in. And look at this spacing. We compare it to the next play in which Purdue is able to get a bucket against Tennessee with Edey and good spacing. But just remember this type of spacing compared to the next one. You have three guys on the strong side, 2 to 3 defenders for Tennessee that realistically can dig down. Now, Matthews isn't a shooter, and so Tennessee is going to just full help off of him. But just in general, like if you're going to post up against Tennessee and they are going to dig like they do here and like they do most times, you have to have good spacing surrounding it. If you don't, then plays like this are going to happen where you have nowhere to go. Now Tennessee gets a turnover, and then this time he gets fouled, but also this is where Tennessee can just get out and run and get good looks. Now, when Edey had more of this kind of one-on-one coverage, that's when he saw some success. I mean, he's going to see that against most teams when he is one-on-one, but you're going to see here. So as Brainsmith throws the ball in, he's going to cut through, taking Ziegler with him. And so now he's just able to quickly go to work. And I also would expect Purdue to probably have Edey post up more in the middle here. But if he's going to be one-on-one, I mean, you can see there's nobody at all really on the strong side at all. Lawyers kind of is, just barely. But they basically, Purdue just in this scenario doesn't want anybody to really have a clean shot at digging down. If Connecticut digs down, Lawyer in this had a huge game, and it's going to be an easy kick out for Edey. And so it's just going to be a matter of Purdue trying to create as much space for Edey, allow him to go one-on-one, and just get into his move. And this still isn't the easiest of buckets, but that's where Zach Edey's so good. He's just going to find a way and get the ball in. Against pick and rolls, Tennessee will both hedge at times and also have B and drop coverage. So I'm going to go through the hedge here as that's more of their base defense against pick and rolls. So you're going to see high ball screen here. And so this big right here is just going to step out and he's going to hedge. And his whole goal is to push the ball handler, Brainsmith in this case, as far out as he can. Now, Brainsmith just tore up Gonzaga's hedge, but obviously Tennessee's is much better in general. The one thing this does do, and where Brayton has really excelled this year, is if he can drag this big out, kind of like he does here, it puts the defense in a tough spot. Now with Edey rolling to the rim, Purdue's almost always going to have a shooter, whether it be Lawyer or Gillis, fill up to the top of the key. If Lawyer's guy stays on Edey, like here, now Lawyer's going to get a wide open three. If he stays on Lawyer, now you're going to get Edey on the roll, and then it becomes, in this case, Miles Colvin. So whoever's on this weak side, their man have to rotate over and try to tag Edey. And once again, now maybe you could get a skip pass or a pass and then the extra pass to an open three. Lawyer doesn't make this one, but just a great look for Purdue and something that they'll go to against the hedge for sure. And Purdue generating these types of threes against a hedge is not an uncommon thing. So you're going to see Michigan here. They're going to be kind of at the level of this high hedge, forcing Brainsmith to go east-west. And once again, you're going to see Edey dive, and now this puts the defender in a tough spot. And he's just going to have to decide to roll on Edey. And especially something that they love to do, Purdue loves to do going out of the second half is they'll post TKR in the strong side block. And so that's going to occupy his defender too. And so now basically it's a 2-on-1 on this weak side. And Brainsmith's just reading this defender completely. Once again, if he steps out to Lawyer, then Brain's either going to fire a pass into Edey or into TKR because his next read will be this defender. But if the defender stays on Edey like he does here, Lawyer or even Gillis at times, if it's Gillis, he'll just be roaming up to the top and getting a wide open three. So now Tennessee is going to be in that kind of hedge defense a lot where the big right here steps out and forces the ball handler to retreat. But I want to put this up because they will be in drop coverage at times, and especially if the ball screen is really high up like this. But even just in general, sometimes they will be kind of in drop coverage, and so that means that the big's just going to be dropping back, keeping the ball handler and the roller both in front. Now this time, South Carolina tries to drive, and that's tough to do against this Tennessee defense. They have really good rim protection in general. You're going to notice the low man here. He's going to be able to tag the roll, take that away, and just make life tough. Now, if the drop coverage is there, he's maybe a little bit higher than all the time that he will be. If he's even a step or two back, and this is Braden Smith, it just has to be a pull-up. Like, that's going to be one of the better shots you can get against this Tennessee defense. Now, if they are going to kind of put two on the ball where they eventually go like this, that's where Braden Smith can eventually be that facilitator like he's been for most of the season. Tennessee has had one of the best defenses in the country all season long, and really it starts with the perimeter guards. And we're going to show that right here. So Tennessee is just able to really get into the ball, and they're going to do it against the best of ball handlers or even just complementary pieces in the rotation for teams. Just getting into the ball and making it that much more difficult for ball handlers to get downhill. So now teams don't have as many advantages or creation opportunities for guys to be able to kick out and stuff. And also, it just allows the defense to be able to rotate better. And Adu right here, he's one of the best rim protectors in the entire country. When you allow him to just kind of roam in the paint here, and these guards can be physical, get into the ball handler, and kind of force them into the big, that's when plays like this are going to happen. And now Tennessee has the option to run once again. Just really good perimeter defense is kind of the key to the Tennessee. So another thing that Tennessee really just does well, and I've kind of mentioned already, is they just force teams to take tough three-pointers. So they're going to allow a lot of three-point attempts, a lot of catch-and-shoot opportunities, but they contest a ton. And I think this play is a pretty good example. So curl from South Carolina here. And as this drive, look, they take away the rim. They're just going to take away the paint and make that hard to get to. Four Tennessee players now in the paint. Generally, this is going to be good things for offenses, right? If you have four guys in here and you're able to make a kick out, that should be a pretty wide open three for in most scenarios. Now, this is just where they're so good in rotation. You're going to have initial defender kind of just shoot the gap a little bit, but apply enough pressure on ball for this to not be a shot. Pass out, you already see a guard rotating back out. Another pass, and now at this point, Tennessee's back to where they need to be, going to contest that, catch and shoot. They just do such a good job rotating and just making life tough on perimeter shooters. Now, this brings me to kind of two keys, I guess, for just the game in general, but they relate to one another. So, the first key is Braden Smith for Purdue. If Purdue is going to win, he has to be good. And for Tennessee to have a chance, they're probably going to have to shut Braden Smith down, especially his facilitating. And that kind of leads into the three-point shooting for Purdue. Tennessee, like I've said, they force a ton of contested threes. Purdue, one of the best teams in the country at generating open threes, and also the best three-point shooting team in the country, period. Now, I've gone over the pick and roll against like high hedges and things like that. But they also, if Braden Smith just has time to operate, he's going to find the guy. And when you combine that with how much attention Edey demands down low, that's when plays like this can happen, where Smith can just kind of probe and kind of figure out where he wants to go. And so now he's caught in the air, but it doesn't matter because he's going to have a wide open guy on the perimeter. So something I'm really going to watch is just kind of the shot quality from three that Purdue is getting. So on offense for Tennessee, basically what seems to be like their go-to play a lot of the times is they're just going to set a ton of pin downs for Dalton Connect. And so it's going to kind of flow out of this. This is kind of a floppy action type where he could flow off of a double pin down or a single. This time, the other thing that they do is they'll just kind of run pin downs on both sides. And they run this all the time to get Dalton Connect into his sets. Now, sometimes Connect will catch and he'll just kind of ISO from there. Sometimes he'll go straight up. Sometimes he'll catch and drive. He can kind of just do whatever. It's similar concept almost to a pick and roll of just like you're setting a screen and allowing a ball handler to go. Obviously a little bit different since he's moving off ball and then able to kind of attack a bent defense. But if you're late closing out, he's just going to shoot. And he's shown that he can make the toughest of shots out of anybody really in the entire country. He's going to just shoot it and let it fly there. And if the pin down is working at all, Tennessee is just going to run it again and again and again until defenses prove that they can stop it consistently enough. And even then, they sometimes just might go to it. So again, basically the same exact play, just a pin down. And it's just going to start with a pin down pretty much always. This time it's on the left side, and so this is where Connect might try to drive a little bit more, get to that right hand. And right here, I mean, you're gonna see him take a dribble. He doesn't need much space to operate. Now, one thing I'm curious to see if Purdue does is this is sort of it for Auburn, but and what I'm talking about is going to be top blocking. And so top blocking is basically where this defender is quite literally on top, and the only way that they want to try to force Connect to go would be honestly this way towards the rim. And I'll talk about why that could be in a second, but basically Purdue isn't great navigating screens, and if Tennessee is just going to spam these over and over, that means the guards are going to have to figure out something. Now, Auburn does a good job here switching, and Connect just at the end of the day doesn't care. He's like, I'm just going to hit tough shots. But it'll be interesting to see what Purdue tries to do to counter what Tennessee is able to run for Connect off ball. The other thing Tennessee does really well is they're able to cut. Now, at times, Tennessee's offense can get kind of ISO heavy with Dalton Connect just basically being like, hey, go to work and get us a bucket. But especially with Ziegler running the show, when he's able to kind of get downhill at all, anywhere kind of near or into the paint, they just force defenses into tough rotations. And he's a very, very skilled passer. And Tennessee also does a good job just being able to read and react. So this is just going to be a simple backdoor cut here. And he's just going to see, okay, my defender is nowhere really to be seen. So now I'm going to cut backdoor, knowing that Ziegler at this point right here is fully a facilitator, get the backdoor cut, and then a good finish at the rim. And Tennessee's going to go to that type of cuts and things like that off ball a lot against Purdue. So now what I kind of want to get to close out the video is what Edey may do, and especially with Dalton Connect being run off of pin downs and things like that so much, is Edey can just kind of play this one-man zone, specifically when he's not guarding a shooter. And Tennessee really only has one even potential lineup combo where they would be sort of 5 shooters on the floor. And even then, I don't know if Tennessee would really go to that lineup too much. And so now this is where, I mean, Purdue does not top block, like I talked about, where it's playing up on top and forcing the guy getting the pin downs to have to try to go more baseline. But what Edey can do is, because he's guarding Ty Rodgers here, who is not a shooter, is he can just basically this area in here is just going to stand and contest anything that's there. And so now it's going to force more of these mid-range shots. Like, that's an open mid-range shot. That is a shot that Connect can definitely get to in this game against Purdue. And I'm just curious to see what they do. Is Connect going to try to go at Edey and try to get him in foul trouble, get to the rim? Is Purdue going to try to make it tougher for Connect to even catch the ball? Is Edey going to step up? Going to be a lot of fun in this matchup.